Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel and today's video. So in today's video, we are going to talk about which Juvias Place palette is best for you. I have my Juvias Place palettes right here, so I will go into showing them for you and talking a bit about them. But before we get into the video, I highly suggest you guys to subscribe if you are not. I upload a lot of videos and I only cover the cruelty-free makeup, so if you do want to support that, then I would really appreciate it. But now let's just hop into this video. So the first palette that came out was the Nubian palette, and that is actually a palette that I don't have. And I will put a picture on how the palette looks right here beside me, so you can see for yourself. It is a really pretty palette with a lot of warm tones. I know for a fact that a lot of people likes this, so I would say this is a great beginner palette if you do love warm tones. I haven't purchased this myself because I already have these shades in my collection and I do like a more colorful look, so I just find that this palette is just not really speaking to me. This palette will suit you if you do love warm tones and want to have an everyday palette for work, or if these are just the tones that you're into. The next palette that they launched was the Nubian palette, and that one I have. It's this one. All of the palettes that they have comes with this type of woman. I just love their packaging. I just had to say that the packaging is just amazing. But this is what the palette looks like, and I think that this palette is really pretty. It comes with some mattes, but comes with mostly shimmers. So the mattes are Morocco, Madagascar, Jezebel, and Kenya. All of the other shades are shimmers. So what you can do with this palette is basically do a more fun colorful look, or a more fun neutral look. I mean, this shade also doesn't seem like that much for the world, but it's actually a really pretty purple. As you can see right here, I think that this shade is really pretty. So this would suit you that doesn't really have these shades, but still loves the neutral shades, but still want to go a little bit edgy sometimes. You do have this beautiful green shade, and then you have this beautiful blue that you could play with. I would say that this is not the favorite blue that Juvias has done, in my opinion, but I do love the green one. I think that they are really beautiful. I do believe that the next palette that they launched was the Masquerade Palette, and then they released this one, and then they released the bigger size. Now I have the small size. I was actually planning on purchasing the big size, but it was out of stock when I were to place my order, and now looking back, I don't really regret it. I think it's better for me to get the small one because this has normal size pans. This doesn't have the large pans that the other palettes had, you could see the Nubian palette had. If you are only looking to purchase one palette or two palettes and try and pan them, then yes, go ahead and purchase the big ones. But for me, that kind of plays with a palette but doesn't only play with one palette, I feel like the small pans are better for me. But this palette is really pretty, and what I do love about it is that we have 8 colorful shades, and then we have 8 neutral warm brown shades, which is really nice. A con with this palette is that if you are looking to do some fun colorful shades or colorful looks, you only get this matte from the colorful shades. This is also a matte, but this is a matte that contains glitter. But I do find that if you were to put this in your crease, which I have done multiple times, and I put this in my outer corner, I have done that multiple times as well, the gold glitter that is in this kind of blends away, so it won't really stick. We do get some purple, blues, and greens in this, and then we get this burgundy pink red shade, which is really pretty as well. And you can also do a warm look, a warm eye, with then just a pop-up color on the lid or under your eye. So this is a really nice palette. This is for a person that does usually do warm tone looks, but do want to branch out a bit and play more with color. Next up is the Sahara palette, and I do believe that this is the smallest palette that they have, and this is also the palette that I have been playing with the least. this is how the palette looks like. And this is so weird because this is the palette that I purchased. Like, when I saw, I remember I saw Nikki Tutorials use this in a tutorial, and I just, like, I was so in love with it. So that was the first time I placed an order at Juvias, and that is when I got the two previous palettes that I showed. So I got all three of them at the same time. So it's kind of weird that this is the palette that I have played with the least, when this was the palette that really pulled me in and made me purchase it. But I think it has to do with the red shade, because I am just so drawn towards reds. This, however, pulls pink on me. I will try and swatch it right here. It does pull pink on me, so it's not a true red. Which is something to keep in mind. I also really love this shade Iman. It's a really beautiful white shade. It's stunning for an inner corner highlight. It's just beautiful. This is also some warm tone browns. As you can see, we have this one, we have this one, and then we have a warm tone red, and we have a black, we have some shimmers, like a gold and such. So I don't know, there's something about it that just doesn't really pull me in and makes me want to use it. I think it is because I'm getting a bit confused with this, but if you love this color scheme, then this could be the palette for you. After that, they dropped the Zulu palette and the Magic palette, and I will start with the Zulu palette, which is just a colorful dream. By the way, all of the tutorials and such that I have with these palettes, I will link in my description box. So if you are interested in seeing something, I will leave them in my description box. Also, if I have a swatch video, a review video on some products, I will leave them in my description box as well, so you can go ahead and check out all of the videos that I have with Juvias. But this is what the palette looks like, and as I said, it's a colorful person's dream. The only shade that I just don't really think is suiting to this palette is the brown. Like, I don't see why I would need a brown, but I guess it's like a basic shade for people that doesn't really love color, or that aren't really used to color, to start off with a brown in the crease. I don't know. I have had some struggles in the past with this palette, I will say. This purple was just it has been a nightmare. It has been one of the worst purples I have ever tried. But I will also tell you guys that I have always used concealer as my eyeshadow primer, and now the past maybe 3 to 4 months I have started using an eyeshadow primer, and that has made the most difference when it comes for me working with colors. So if you are like me, if you have trouble with some shadows, then that could be something to branch out towards trying. I really love the Too Faced eyeshadow primer, and I really love the Milani eyeshadow primer. That is just something that I think is really good. So I haven't tried the purple with an eyeshadow primer, so I will be honest and say that. But overall, like, these shades are so beautiful, and I think that they all work really great together. This green is just like a green that I really love. It's like a lime, beautiful green shade, and I really need to play with this palette more because, as I said, like, it's a colorful person's dream. Then they also came out with the Magic palette, and this is the biggest palette I have. I do believe that the Masquerade palette is as big as this. Now, keep in mind, I said that I had the small Masquerade palette, so if you are going to get the big Masquerade palette, this is the size that you will get, I think. And then if you get the small one, this is the size that you will get, just so you are aware. So this is what the Magic palette looks like. It comes with 16 shades with a variation of mattes and shimmers. I just have to swatch the gold because the gold is, I am not a gold person. I am not, but the gold in this palette is so freaking good. It's so fluffing beautiful. Like, there's no gold in my entire collection that can beat this. It's like liquid gold. It's so freaking pretty. But I will also say that this palette I haven't really used that much. Like, this is probably the least the palette I have used the least after the Sahara palette, and I honestly don't really know why. I think it is because I feel like we don't get enough mattes in this palette. We do get the shade Keshi, and this is something that is going to be repetitive with Juvias. They throw in a lot of shimmer shades, and then they throw in a couple of mattes, and the mattes are usually browns. So we have this Keshi shade, which is, if you are white like me, you could use this as a transition shade or even to set your eyeshadow primer or your concealer or whatever you use. You do get two warm tone browns, you get this strawberry red, and then you get this purple and then this blue. And they're fairly dark, like, and then you get the rest is shimmer. So I think it is because of the matte shades that I just don't really tend to use this, but the shimmers in this palette is really beautiful, and I think that this palette could be amazing to pair with other palettes in my collection. If you love the color scheme of this, then you should totally go ahead and get it, but for me, I think that this palette, I need to incorporate this palette more with other palettes that I have, and use mattes in other palettes, and then go back to this and use them as shimmer shades. The next palette that they launched was the Sahara palette, and this is the palette that I have been using today. This is one of my favorite shades or palettes from them. As you can see, mine is kind of butchered right here. It is because of the shadow. Actually, I dropped this palette and it broke. I haven't repressed it, but I kind of just took my finger and pressed it back in. I have been using this shade. As I've said before in a lot of my tutorials, this shade doesn't really look much for the world, but when swatched, I will swatch it for you as well, because why not? It is right here. It is like a burgundy purple pink. It's like such a beautiful shade in my opinion, and in this, like, almost like a, I want to say gothy, but it's not gothy, almost like a smoky red eye. I just think it's beautiful. So in this palette you do get 6 shimmers and then 3 mattes. So the mattes that you do get are the brown, this red shade that I talked about, and then a darker brown. So you are fairly limited when you are using this palette, but just for me, this shade alone makes this one of my favorite palettes. I also am wearing this one in my inner corner because I think it's really pretty. I also love the blue. This also is a shade that has really surprised me. It's really, really pretty. I will just swatch it right here. It isn't a brown. I know it can look like it in some lights, but when you're pairing this with some pink shadows, it is going to transfer more like a shade that is similar to this one, like a red pinkish shade, which is just so freaking beautiful. I would say that if you do love the color story of this, I would say, like, go ahead and get this. As I said, this is one of my favorites, and I have done so beautiful looks with this, and I will leave my 3 looks that I have done with this right here in the corner, because that video is containing some of my favorite looks that I have ever done. So next up was the Douce palette, and I was not planning to purchase this. I did think that this packaging was the most beautiful packaging that Juvias has had ever done, but I was still not going to purchase it because I thought that the shades wasn't really my jam. Now, obviously, I changed my mind because I do have it in my collection, but I saw some people do so beautiful tutorials with this, and they were kind of soft, glammy, very chic and beautiful looks that was still colorful, and I was just like, okay, now I need it. I think that the only shade in this palette that I haven't used is the brown, and then the bull silvery shade. This one is also really pretty. I'm so sorry for all the swatches, but this looks like a white, I know, but it contains like a gold or a pink shift to it. It is swatched right here. It's really, really pretty. I do really, 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 really love it. This palette is so pretty as well. I have done a look with, if you look at my profile picture, I am wearing this palette and this shade on my entire lid, and then I think I'm using this one on my, like, inner corner and a bit to my lid. This is for the person that do want to do some neutral looks but still want to use some color. if you think about it, you could do a neutral look with, for instance, this shade and then this shade, even this shade, or even like this shade, and then just take a little bit of this, or even a little bit of this, or even the bold silvery shade you could do something very neutral with. So this is for someone that does want to do some soft, beautiful looks. Now, don't get me wrong, you can do some really intense looks as well, but if you do want to do some soft looks, this is a perfect palette for you. Then we have the Festival palette, and looks like this. Ugh, got some hair in my mouth. This also came with a lip kit. I don't have the lip kit because the lip kit didn't come to Beauty Bay, unfortunately. This is how the palette looks like. So we do get some beautiful reds, we get a pink, we get a beautiful like white, and we get some bronze to shade, we get a shimmery black, and then a blue again. I would say, like, I don't really know what to do with the blue with this in this palette, and the pink is kind of throwing me off a little bit, but I can work with it. I do like these reds. I think I have heard so many people that doesn't really love these reds, but I think that they are beautiful, and I love the fact that they threw in two different reds. So this has a more warm orangey undertone, and this has a more blue pinkish undertone that makes it like you could do a entire orange look with these, and then you can do a pink reddish look with this, which I am such a fan of. I do prefer my cool tone reds than my warm tone reds, but that is just something for like my personal taste. So that is something to keep in mind. I do love this palette. Like, the only thing is the black. Like, this palette is throwing me off a little bit. I would not reach for this palette if it wasn't for the red shades. That is something that I will say. I love the reds. Whenever I want to do something red, I go towards this palette, most of the times anyway. The last palette that they did come out with was the Warrior palette, and that is a palette that I haven't purchased, and I haven't planned to purchase it. The reasoning is because I will have a picture on it so you can see how it looks, but the reasoning is that it's just not a palette for me. This palette is a palette that I feel is smart for Juvias Place to put out because it's different from what they have in their collection, but I would love to change it a bit because you do only get 3 mattes in this palette, and one of them is the bone shade, and yeah, then you get like a really dark brown, and then you get a warmer brown, and I feel like you are very limited. Instead, I would love for them to do 6 mattes and 3 shimmers, or even 7 mattes and 2 shimmers, because I feel like more people could use the palette in variations, like in different variations, and do different creations. But that is just something that is my personal preference. If you do love the color scheme of this, I would bet that this is an amazing formula, as Juvias Place shadows are most of the time. Like, to be honest, like, they are pretty much up to par all the time. So, but that is just my personal preference, that that is just not a palette that I would reach for. I would much rather get the Soft Glam palette from ABH because that has a little bit more variation in my opinion. So yeah, as I said, that is just something that is my personal preference. I do really hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you don't own a Juvias Place palette, or if you only own like 1 or 2, let me know which one you own, or if you don't own any, let me know which one you would love to purchase. I would love to hear from you and see what kind of taste you have in these palettes. But as I said, that was all from me today. Don't forget to like the video if you liked it, dislike if you didn't like it, subscribe if you're not, and I will see you guys very soon. Bye!